Have you ever seen public sex in front of thousands of people? We saw full-on pegging, bondage suspension, just to name a few tame visuals. All right, everyone. What is the Folsom Street Fair? The fair is an all-day celebration of sexual liberation and openness. It is in a 6-block radius where pretty much anything goes. There is no judgment, there is no stigma, and we actually had the pleasure of going this year. And we've been hesitant every single year, a bit timid about going. And we went, we did it, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about it.
To be clear, we weren't timid about what was going to happen there. We were timid because of the crowds and the size and kind of just the overwhelming nature of how many people were packed in this maze of booths and sexual frenzy.
Right. And I honestly, I didn't know what to expect. It's no different than when you first started out swinging. You're freaked out. You're thinking the worst, right? You think the classic, throw the keys in the bowl, walk in the door, and all of a sudden you're naked and everyone attacks you, right? No, it wasn't anything like that.
Yeah, Folsom Street Fair is not much different than any, art and wine festival, but just change the art out for other things, dildos, leather, cocktails, and all kinds of fun stuff.
Cocktails.
And cocktails.
There was tails and lots of cocks. Folsom Street is a nonprofit arts and cultural organization. It cultivates that safe, open, and inclusive environment for the kink, leather, and alternative sexual community. If you're interested in learning more about this organization, go to folsomstreet.org. Who attends, Ed?
Everybody. There's all flavors of sexual preference and orientation and hobbies, interests. So anything from, like you said, the kink community to the gay and lesbian community to the transsexual community. We saw a fair number of swingers there.
Yes.
We saw some people who looked very vanilla.
Oh, yes.
But who knows how vanilla they were just because they were dressed, I don't know, conservatively.
Right.
You have no idea why they were there or what happens behind their bedroom doors.
Exactly. We've saw and met people from all over the United States and all over the world.
Yeah, there was a group of people that we spent a little bit of time talking with, taking some pictures with from Glasgow, Scotland.
Yes.
And we connected with them. It was great. It was fun listening to their accents and hearing something a little different than our normal American accents.
She was blonde and in a black leather bodysuit with fishnet stockings, and her doll was in a full latex doll costume. The Japanese anime mask, big, huge anime head.
One of the first gentlemen that we ran across, we got there early. We got there
10:30?
About 10:30-ish or so. Mm-hmm. So people were starting to roll in, but the crowds weren't there, which was nice because we got to see the booths and we kind of got to interact with people and not feel like we were being crowded.
Yes.
So the first guy we met was Mr. Purple Balls guy. We'll call him that because he'd caged and stretched his junk to the point where it looks like he'd cut the circulation off. It's a kink. It's this aesthetic that he was going for. But I don't know how good that is. I mean, typically they'll tell you not to wear a cock ring for longer than 20 minutes because cutting the circulation off for longer than that isn't good. Like, you can cause tissue damage. So I do wonder if he's done some long-term tissue damage, but he seemed to enjoy it. Like, that was his thing.
It was a gorgeous setup, clamp.
Right.
I'm not sure if you just call it a clamp, because clamped more than just around his balls. He had a hole for his penis. So his penis came out the front.
Right.
And then his balls went down below.
Yeah. There is a picture of this on our social media. So if you're curious about what this guy's equipment looked like,
His balls were the size of...
It was like bigger than a fist, like a big fist.
Almost the size of both my fists.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was fascinating.
And if you happen to be this gentleman,
yes,
also write to us and tell us how your experience was that day being yanked around by your chain. We wandered a little bit further down the road, and there was a small inflatable pool.
Yep.
And there were 4 or 5 gentlemen sitting in there, some of them in ski masks, some in latex, some just...
Some with goggles, I think.
Yeah, for sure. This was with a particular group of gentlemen who were part of a black and yellow bandana group. So within the gay community, there's a kind of a color code for different colored bandanas in terms of communicating what you're into.
This goes way back, right?
This goes way back, yeah.
Like into the 20s and 30s? Is this where that's...
I don't know how far it goes back, but it goes back a long way as a secret form of communication, so that when they were at events or in public spaces where they didn't want to verbally say what they were into, they could kind of secretly code out what they were into, which was kind of cool. You'd match up with who matched your color preference.
Yeah. Swingers have tried this at parties, but it doesn't really seem to take off much.
Yeah. The different colored wristbands to indicate, full swap, soft swap.
Right.
And you're right. Yeah. Your mileage will vary. Well, it's been much more successful for the LGBTQ community. If you don't know what the yellow bandana was for, it's for golden showers or piss play. So they were sitting in a pool and people could come up and sprinkle them.
Sprinkle. I like how you say that.
Sprinkle. I've seen a few comments through social media where people were taking advantage of that situation and utilizing their pool.
Had I known that, I probably would have done it.
Yeah, that's been a thing recently for you to consider.
For some reason, it's very powerful. And I don't have a problem with that for some reason. I know a lot of people will be like, oh my God. Right. But you have to understand, I grew up so conservative that you didn't even pee in a public bathroom until everyone left, because that's how embarrassing it was. Just to hear somebody hear you peeing was really embarrassing. You'd never peed next to somebody in the other stall until they left.
I mean, there's a little bit of a bro code where you like skip a urinal.
Right.
But yeah, that's pretty
You
extreme.
never knew that about me.
I did not know that.
And so now, being an avid backpacker and just dropping trow and going when you need to, because when you gotta go, you gotta go. Being an exhibitionist, I thought that was a missed opportunity for me.
Yeah. It could have been an interesting experience for you to have.
There wasn't all just kinky stuff there. There was some go-go dancers that they had organized up on little individual stages, and they would rotate out, all different shapes and sizes, men, women. One of the women had a full mastectomy. She was rocking her full body. They also had sex-positive vendors and sex therapists and all the toys that you talked about. The leather stuff, the jewelry, erotic art. Someone was making tiles, and I mean, it was... Yeah,
the paintings on the metal and paintings on tile.
In the beginning, when we very first got there, and I'm glad we saw this because you wouldn't have been able to see it later because of the crowds.
We got to see a pony parade, which was really fun. Everybody had pretty elaborate costumes. Their outfits were amazingly detailed. They went into all kinds of, elaborate manes and hooves. Some ponies were pulling carts for their masters. Yep. And it was probably 30 or 40 people in the parade. It was about
a good 40, I think.
Yes. And they went down one side of the street, and then they did a turnaround and came back the other way, and we got to see both of them.
There was also public sex, and lots of it. We didn't get to see as much.
Right.
Because as the fair day progressed, it got more crowded. And so sometimes you just couldn't move very quickly from location to location where some of these things were occurring. Guys giving head.
And ladies.
And ladies, men and women fucking doggy style right on the street.
Right.
People being dominated. There was a couple men being fisted by one man. Both hands.
Wow.
Right in the center of where the crossroads met. It was phenomenal of kink and sex and passion and expression. The overall feeling was really wonderful because it felt so judgment-free and so relaxing.
Yeah, very liberated. Like everybody there was there to have a good time, and it may not have been their kink or their particular thing. Nobody was making fun of or, degrading or, well, I mean, maybe intentionally degrading because that was part of the kink,
right.
But it was all about people's personal expression and how they express their sexuality. And everybody was there to just observe and celebrate that and support everybody else. It was super cool.
And I will say, I think this is the largest event I've been to where everyone self-policed.
Right.
Because honestly, I didn't see a police presence anywhere. And if they were there, I couldn't tell.
There were very few. Like, they weren't at the entrances. They weren't like in heavy force. It's also interesting because I've been to a lot of like large events, and typically when people start drinking and having a lot of fun, people get reckless or rowdy and bad things happen.
Right.
People bump into each other. They start fights, things like that. That did not happen here that we observed or that we heard.
The kink community, the BDSM community, which was largely enforced there, they don't drink, they don't do drugs when they are involved in scenes or anything that involves consent, really.
Right.
As swingers, we should do the same, but we don't.
Yeah.
Everyone was fully aware, fully present, and that's
partially. There's a large spectrum of people who were there. So not everyone was of the kink persuasion, but everybody seemed to be at least maintaining some level of
civility.
Yeah, and not
sobriety.
Disorderly conduct.
Right. Who else did we run into there?
Well, we ran into some flogging. There were a number of kink booths set up where they had flogging demonstrations. You could volunteer to be flogged if you wanted something to be checked off of your list.
Yep.
You'd never tried it before. There were doms there that were more than happy to help facilitate that expression and let you try it out.
Right.
We saw some suspension work really early on in the day, which was fantastic. They had very large kind of A-frames set up.
Massive.
And people were hanging from them. The rope masters were tying them up in different ways and adjusting them and putting pressure on their bodies, flogging them with the rope. It was fascinating to see 2 or 3 of those different A-frames set up and how each one was a little bit different, and each person, the way that they performed or expressed was different.
Right.
So it was quite a show.
The one you and I observed was fascinating to me because he was so quick at his craft.
Oh, yeah.
And he knew it like the back of his hand. And that extra weight that he added to her body by crawling on top of her body and hanging from the top was phenomenal. I'd never seen anything like that.
No, we'd never had.
And just as quickly as he got up there and did that, and then he was done and started then unwinding her in the same way that he put her up there. It was a full reverse of everything he did before. It was amazing. I thought it was art and erotic all at the same time.
We ran into some of our local friends there, which was great. We went with some friends and, hung out with them most of the day and helped them with their outfit.
A full shibari corset.
Yeah. with a chain skirt. It was really cool.
3 to 4 hours of work to get that on.
Yeah,
Phenomenal.
at least. We interviewed a group of 4 swingers.
We're interviewing a couple people, some listeners, and we wanted to ask them about their feelings about the Folsom Street Fair. So here we are. Say hi, everybody. So what do you guys think of the Folsom Street Fair? Why do you enjoy it? What does it bring out for you?
I love the sex positivity. I love the no judgment. I love that we can all enjoy different things and get off on different things, and it's all awesome.
Nice.
Every time I come here, I learn something new.
Yes.
Not only about just this environment, but about myself.
Nice.
Because I feel free and open when I'm here.
Very cool. How about you, gentlemen?
Authenticity. People are here trying to be who they want to be, and not
Right.
not who they pretend to be to somebody else outside of this circle. And I love that about it.
Very cool.
It's amazing. There's so many different varieties of people and gigs and things like that. I almost wish there was more swinger representation here.
For sure.
Yeah. It's almost a different group.
It is.
But we cross over a little.
Venn diagram.
Right. Cool. Well, thanks for stopping and talking to us, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of the fair.
Thank you. Awesome.
It was really awesome meeting people who actually listen to the podcast and hear their perspective on the street fair. We also ran into Yub Kim, who was from Ohio, and he was with a group of gentlemen from Ohio, and he was a sex therapist, and it was fun. Towards the end of the day, we got to talk to him a little bit about shame and stigma and how people are really struggling in today's modern world with their sexuality, and how he's got his work cut out for him, and he appreciated that we were also there, and that we were doing the work that we were in terms of destigmatizing sexuality.
Yes, and still people are dealing with shame at the level of I've masturbated 3 times a week. I think I'm going to hell. And he's like, nope, you're not. That's totally normal. And honestly, you should probably do it more. Right. I mean, that's the level of shame that individuals are still carrying around with them. It tugs on my heartstrings because I've been there and I've grown so much, and I can only hope and wish the journey that I've had through my own progression of sexuality for those people as well.
So this is kind of the public version of what we went through. There's a lot that can be said in terms of other things that had happened at the fair, but we're going to go into those in our Patreon episode. So if you're interested in hearing more of the juicy, sexy stories, check us out on our Patreon.
Exactly. And we did have a listener question. Well, actually, we had a couple of them this week, and they were very similar. The context was basically, how can I get my wife interested in swinging? And we get this question frequently.
It's a pretty common question just in lifestyle forums in general.
So what are 3 good tips that we have for this listener?
Well, first, you have to be able to talk about your preferences, your kinks, and your fantasies. If you can't talk about sex in your relationship, there's probably not much hope that you're going to be able to get into swinging. Second, why are you interested in it? You have to be able to articulate it to your partner. If it sounds shady or dodgy, they're going to pick up on that. So don't try and fake your way through that. You've got to have a pretty good reason for trying it out. And if both of you are open to it and comfortable enough, try going to a meet and greet. Go to a swinger meet and greet, go to a local event, and just watch, just observe. If you can get past those hurdles, a lot of doors start to open. You'll start to have a lot more conversations about the lifestyle and what you feel comfortable with.
We have a series of how to get started in swinging on YouTube, and we'll put that link here in this podcast as well. Well, thank you again for listening and watching. We had a great time at the Folsom Street Fair, and we'll definitely go back again. Next time, we're going to be more naked.
I think so. I'm
going to be more naked. I might just be all naked. That would be fabulous.
That would be Pretty cool.
My photo would be everywhere, though.
That's true.
There were a lot of cameras out. Thank you. And we were thankful for this experience and being part of the growing kink and open sexuality community, swinger community. And I was inspired and uplifted. And hopefully you were too.
Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you joining our community. Don't forget your homework. Tell a friend about our show. You can also leave us a voicemail at 916-538-0482 or contact us at swingeruniversity.com. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep it sexy.